These are the worst episodes of Gravity Falls. The third episode is The Love God, with a rating of 7.6 stars. The episode starts off with Dipper and Mabel hanging out with Wendy and her friends at a cemetery. They're all cloud watching until they see a bunch of balloons. So Wendy tells them about how there's a giant festival with a bunch of people playing, one being this creepy looking dude called the Love God. Dipper has never been to a concert before, so Wendy tells him he should go with her and her friends. They also make Thompson lick this disgusting moldy sponge, and honestly I feel so bad for how hard this dude gets bullied. But anyways, they all hear this weird groaning sound, and it's coming from an open grave. Dipper tells Thompson to look, and wow, not only is this dude being bullied by his own friends, but literal 12-year-olds. But turns out the groaning in the grave is Robbie, who is straight up crashing out over losing Wendy, and it's pretty embarrassing. The group leaves them to be sad and alone, but Mabel feels bad, so she wants to do everything she can to make Robbie feel better, maybe even find him a new girlfriend. Mabel gets to work on her matchmaking, and Mabel has the idea to go visit Robbie at his house, and this dude literally lives in a funeral home. Despite being funeral directors though, Robbie's parents actually seem really chill. I also never noticed this, but they actually have a dead body just chilling in the living room. Wow. So Mabel goes upstairs to see Robbie and bring him his lunch, but bro is not happy about it. Robbie only agrees to let Mabel be his matchmaker, so she'll leave, and she gets right to work. Mabel clearly has an obsession with matchmaking because she has a whole small version of Gravity Falls with wooden figures for everyone. I also like how she has Stan with Seuss's grandma in the future matches, and Old Man McGucket with a beaver. Kind of insane. At first, Mabel doesn't know who to match Robbie with, but she realizes the answer has been right in front of her the entire time. Dipper and Wendy's friends are all getting ready for the concert when Tambry gets a weird text from a secret admirer, telling her to meet them at the diner and bring her sweet bod. And if I was Tambry, I would not pull up to that diner, but she does, and sees that Robbie was her secret admirer. And they're both really grossed out, and they do not hit it off. And Robbie is about to leave until everyone in the diner gets up and runs to the door. The Love God is at this diner, and this dude is making people fall in love left and right. So of course Mabel asks him where the secret is, and he tells her that he's a real love god. And he proves this by using a love potion on a snake and a badger. Mabel is now desperate to get her hands on this love potion, and she begs Love God to let her buy one, but he refuses. When Love God turns around and signs some girl's face, Mabel straight up steals a potion from him and dumps it on Robbie's chili fries. Honestly, it's pretty funny that this cook just let Mabel dump this random pink stuff on these fries. Like, bro does not care at all. And Mabel puts so much that Robbie and Tambry only eat one fry, and they are in love. And it's actually pretty nice seeing them both happy for once. Tambry even leaves her phone, which is insane for her. Mabel thinks she did a good job, but she has no idea what she just caused. When everyone's getting ready for the festival, Mabel tells Wendy's friends that Tambry is in Smoochville with Robbie, and they all freak out. First, Nate freaks out because he liked Tambry, and he actually told Robbie about it. And Lee is mad because Nate didn't tell him that he liked Tambry. And Wendy is mad that Tambry is dating her ex. So now no one is going to the concert, and everyone storms off. And Thompson is just mad because now he has no friends. Also, it's kind of sad that Thompson is so desperate for friends that he's totally fine with being bullied. I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's a sad thing. I'm not really sure. I don't really know his lore. Mabel and Dipper now have to try to make Robbie and Tambry break up so their friend group can be back together. Mabel remembers that the Love God had an anti-love potion, so now they just have to steal it from him. Dipper and Mabel find his van, and I don't even want to know what this dude was doing back there, but he leaves the van and leaves his potions, and Mabel finds the anti-love potion. But Love God sees Dipper and Mabel and tries to stop them, but they just run away with the potion. Love God now has to chase them, and Dipper and Mabel run all the way onto the stage while there's a band performing called the Handlebar Bros, and they tie their mustaches together. That's gotta be mad uncomfortable, I can't imagine. So now the mustache freaks try to stop Dipper and Mabel, but they smash their heads together and jump into the crowd. Love God is still chasing them, and even uses his little wings to fly. After he catches up to them, he uses some kind of illusion spell to make Mabel see all of her past love interest, and Mabel instantly folds and gives the potion back to Love God. Also, Seuss and Gretel Stan spend the entire episode building their own balloon for the festival, and Stan is trying to make young people like him, so they'll buy stuff from the shack. But this dude's balloon says, "I heart kids." And I don't know about you, but if I saw a balloon with the crusty old man's face that said, "I heart kids," I'd be pretty weirded out. And when they go to launch the balloon, something terrible happens. The H and the R fall off the balloon. So if it wasn't weird before, now it says, "I eat kids." And not only that, but the balloon catches on fire. So now there's just a flying flaming head terrifying everyone. This kid even asks his mom if the head's gonna eat them, and the mom literally goes, "Yes, Charlie, yes he will." And honestly, I think this is my favorite scene in the entire episode. After Mabel gives the Love God the potion, the gigantic Stan balloon literally lands right on top of him, and he drops the potion. But he's finally just had enough of Dipper and Mabel, so he lets them keep the potion. So Dipper and Mabel are finally about to spray Robbie and Tambry with anti-love until they realize how happy they look. In some kind of weird, gross way, they're perfect for each other. At the end of the episode, Thompson brings a friendship cake to the festival to get everyone back together, but he drops it, and his sweater rips when he goes to pick it up. And you know how everyone used to sneak snacks in the movies under their sweaters? Yeah, this guy did that, but took it to the next level. After security sees all the food he brought in, they chase him and start beating him with a broom like a piñata. All of Wendy's friends see Thompson getting chased, and they start that famous chant, "Thompson, Thompson, Thompson." So it seems like everyone is friends again, and the episode ends there. This is definitely one of the weaker episodes of Gravity Falls for a lot of reasons. For one, Mabel is extremely extremely selfish in this episode, and her desire to be a good matchmaker is basically what caused chaos. I also don't like that Love God was paying to be a villain when it was literally Mabel stealing his stuff and using it. Not only that, but they literally ruined this guy's concert, then didn't even undo the spell. I also thought it was funny that all of Wendy's friends said they weren't going to the concert, yet they all still went. Honestly, the only good part of this episode was the humor. The IE Kids balloon is one of the funniest jokes in Gravity Falls. But yeah, honestly, this episode was not really important to the lore. It was definitely a filler. The second worst episode is The Hand That Rocks the Mabel, with a rating of 7.6 stars. The episode starts off with Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss watching TV when this weird commercial comes on. The commercial is advertising a psychic named Gideon, and even bashes Stan calling him a fraud. But I noticed something very interesting about this commercial. Right at the end of the commercial, Gideon's dad says, "Carla, I've always loved you," whenever they get to say it. And he says it really fast, so you can almost miss it. This had me wondering who Carla was. And I have a theory. The only Carla in Gravity Falls is Stan's old girlfriend when he was a teenager. And in one of Stan's flashbacks, we see that a hippie actually stole Carla from him. So could Bud be the same hippie that stole Carla? Well, it could make sense. For one, we never hear why Stan and Bud hate each other so much. So it could just be business rivalry, but the hatred feels deeper than that. What if Stan hates Bud for taking his girlfriend? Well, it turns out that can't be the case, because the person that stole Carla from Stan is actually a musician that is not Bud. Also, Carla and Stan dated when he lived in New Jersey, which is all the way across the country from Gravity Falls. So the chance of Bud loving the same Carla is pretty low. So who is Carla? This made me had to think deeper. What if this message isn't from Bud, but from the creator himself, Alex Hirsch? I think Alex was in love with someone named Carla, but he never confessed his feelings, which made him put subliminal messages like this in his cartoon. But anyways, back to the episode. Seuss, Dipper, and Mabel go to the tent of telepathy to see if Gideon is a fraud or not. This place literally seems like the Mystery Shack in a mirror dimension. They even have a Seuss. Gideon sings a song and acts like he's doing some psychic readings, but literally just stating the obvious, like guessing Mabel's name even though it's literally on her sweater. Dipper realizes that he's a fraud, but Mabel feeds into it. The next morning, after Mabel bedazzles her face, they get knocked on the door. Gideon showed up to their house because he liked Mabel so much, and he asked her if she'll hang out with him in his dressing room, and she agrees. Mabel keeps hanging out with Gideon, but he starts acting weird. He starts rubbing her hair and asks her on a date, but Mabel is clearly uninterested. He manipulates her into saying yes by promising it'll only be one date, so she agrees. And this dude literally shows up to her house on a horse and takes her to a really fancy restaurant. Once Stan hears that Gideon is preying on Mabel, he is so mad. He pulls up to Gideon's house to tell Gideon he can't date Mabel until Bud says it could be a good business opportunity. So now Stan is interested. So back to the date. Gideon does something evil. He makes a huge gesture, asking Mabel out to a ballroom dance in front of everyone, and the peer pressure is crazy. An old lady even says she'll die from sadness if Mabel says no, and Gideon keeps taking Mabel out on dates. And things get really bad when Stan says Mabel has to get married to Gideon. So now she's just freaking out in her sweater. So Dipper, seeing this, does something really sweet. He agrees to dump Gideon for Mabel since she can't do it. And once Dipper tells Gideon she's not going to see him anymore, we can see that Gideon is crashing out. And for some reason, he is so delusional, he thinks that Dipper is the only reason Mabel doesn't want to see him anymore. And this next scene is insane. When Gideon touches his amulet, he literally has telekinesis and smashes his wardrobe on the ground. He also burns Dipper from a picture on his wall, so this dude clearly wants to kill Dipper. Gideon has Toby manipulate Dipper by saying he wants to hear his theories and notes about the town, so Dipper heads to the address Toby gave him, and he walks into an empty warehouse, and the door immediately slams shut. Gideon tells Dipper the town has secrets he couldn't begin to understand, and attacks Dipper with his telekinesis powers. While this is happening, Mabel is sitting at home and feeling bad, so she decides that Gideon deserves an honest breakup from her, so she heads out. And this kid is clearly insane, and he takes a pair of shears and is literally about to kill Dipper. When Mabel shows up and sees what's going on, Mabel tells Gideon she'll still be his makeup buddy, and then she rips his amulet right off and throws it to Dipper. Gideon straight up tackles Dipper out of the window, and now they're flying off a cliff, but Mabel uses the amulet to stop them from falling, and then she shatters it. But anyway, she makes it very clear to Gideon she does not want to date him, so he just runs off and says he'll get revenge. Gideon also makes his dad rip up the contract him and Stan were about to sign, so everything goes back to normal. The episode ends with revealing that Gideon actually has a second journal, which is how he found that amulet. This episode, in my opinion, is not that bad of an episode, and I found myself enjoying it a lot more than Love God. I think a reason the episode wasn't rated as high is because of how repetitive it kind of is. We kind of just see a back and forth of Mabel going on miserable dates with Gideon over and over again, and it's not the most fun episode I've watched. I do think this episode was important though, as it introduced Gideon and set forth his villain arc, which is very important in the later episodes. Besides that though, it was still interesting to see such a delusional weird kid, and honestly, it had me on the edge of my seat trying to see how Mabel was gonna get out of the situation. I also think a lot of people weren't a fan of this episode because of how easily this could have been avoided. Mabel could have easily shut down this entire thing from the moment she met him, as she never even had slight intentions to get with him, but it seemed kind of forced to, like I said, create Gideon's villain arc. But while I do think it was slightly forced for Gideon's hatred, it still kind of makes sense for Mabel's character, as she's a huge empath sometimes. Finally, the worst episode of Gravity Falls is Boys Crazy, with a rating of 7.3 stars. The episode starts off with Dipper and Wendy playing a game where they just make fun of people on the cameras when Mabel pops up doing a happy little Mabel dance. The reason she's so happy is because her favorite boy band several times is playing at a concert in Gravity Falls, so her and her friends are planning to go. While Mabel and her friends get ready for the concert, Robbie comes into the Mystery Shack and asks Wendy to go to a place called Lookout Point and does this really creepy face. Apparently the night before, Robbie literally stood up Wendy, so the fact that he didn't even say sorry and just asked her to do this with him really makes her mad, and she breaks up with him. Right after she dumps him, he pulls out this weird looking CD and tells Wendy he wrote a song for her, and it's actually the most cringe song I've ever heard. But something about this song seems to straight up hypnotize Wendy, and she instantly is willing to give Robbie another chance, which makes Dipper extremely sus. Robbie leaves the CD in the boombox and leaves a Wendy, so Dipper decides to investigate it. Mabel and her friends are now finally ready to go to the concert, and honestly, fans like this terrify me. They get to the concert ready to see their favorite band when something horrible happens. The concert is sold out, so the girls can't go, and honestly that's kind of their fault. Everyone knows you're supposed to buy concert tickets mad early. Back at home, Dipper is distraught, and he tells Stan about how he thinks Robbie hypnotized Wendy, and to his surprise, Stan actually believes him. Not only that, but this is when Stan tells his story about how a hippie took his girlfriend, Carla from before. Pretty much a hippie musician used music to hypnotize his girlfriend and steal her, so Stan agrees to help Dipper investigate the CD after eating his disgusting brown meat. After the concert is over, Mabel and her friends sneak through the backstage doors by picking the lock with a bobby pin. They find several times dressing room, and what's behind the door is straight up terrifying. The band is literally made out of clones who were grown in pods. Not only that, but they're kept in a hamster cage. Kind of insane. The girls hear someone coming around the corner, so they hide, and it's none other than several times horrible producer. Even though they literally sold out their show, this guy is really mean to them still, and threatens to replace them with other clones, except for Leggy P, and he gets a literal cheese for being good. The girls talk to us several times, and although they're a little stupid, they seem like nice people who just want to be free. So Mabel lets them out of their cage and agrees to free them. While Stan and Dipper keep investigating the CD, Mabel, Candy, and Grenda haul the boys upstairs in a large, not suspicious bag. Once their producer shows up looking for them, Mabel tells the boys they have to stay with her to be safe. And this is where the episode starts getting really weird. Despite Candy and Grenda's warning not to get too attached to the boys, Mabel starts treating them like her own pets and starts getting really possessive over them. And it's kind of weird considering how much older they are than her. And not only that, but she's literally holding humans hostage. Anyways, back to Dipper. He converts Robbie's CD to a record so he can slow it down, but there doesn't appear to be any hidden messages until he has a genius idea to play the record backwards. And what he hears is insane. "You are now under my control. Your mind is mine." So Robbie really was brainwashing Wendy, and now Dipper has the proof he needs. And of course, Dipper wants Wendy and Robbie to break up anyways because he's down bad for Wendy. But Stannis wants an excuse to punch a teenager. So while they're chasing after Wendy and Robbie, Mabel finally put the boy band to sleep, and the girls see something crazy on the news. Several times evil producer was arrested for not having a license plate, so now they're basically free. Grenda and Kenny rush to tell the boys the good news, but Mabel has straight up lost her mind and tries to convince them not to so she can keep them. Candy and Grenda break into the room and tell the boys that they're free, but since Mabel tells them that it's a lie, they take her side. I really don't like how weird Mabel's being in this episode. Like, she literally took the boys so she could free them, but now she wants to hold them hostage. She even uses the boys to kick Candy and Greta out. Anyways, Dipper and Stan probably break every traffic law imaginable when driving up to Lookout Point, but at least they made it there. So Dipper shows Wendy the secret message in the song, and she is mad, but she's mostly mad at Robbie because he tried playing it off like he got the song from another band, which meant he didn't write it for her, and she dumps him for good. For some reason though, Dipper tries to invite Wendy bowling right after they just broke up. What an idiot. Once Mabel hears a song several times wrote for her about how they can never be free, she finally realizes what an awful person she's being, and the episode ends with her letting the boy band out in the wild. Honestly, considering they were raised like hamsters, I highly doubt they could survive on their own in the wild anyways. I could definitely see why a lot of fans don't like this episode. The A and B plot are both pretty weak and uninteresting. Honestly, I did not care at all for the Robbie CD thing. I think another thing that makes this episode really bad is that they really don't go in depth on the cloning or how the producer even had technology like that. They could have gone a lot deeper into it, but instead, the whole episode was Mabel being a bad person, even turning on her own best friend just to hold the boys hostage and lie to them. Honestly, I think the episode would have been better if Mabel spent the episode teaching the boys how to survive on their own in the real world, but instead, it was just them being stupid the entire time. The writing of this episode is just very poor compared to other episodes, and there's a lot of plot holes and questions you would have at the end. Like, how did Robbie get a mind control CD? What happened to the producer and the clones? What happened to several times? Honestly, the only good aspect of this episode was seeing how funny the boys acted since they were treated like literal lab rats growing up. But honestly, for a worst episode, 7.3 stars is not even a bad rating. I don't think Gravity Falls has any bad episodes, but this is definitely one of the worst in comparison to the rest of the show. And if you want to see the best episodes, it's in the middle of the screen. These are the best episodes of Gravity Falls. Not the worst, the best. These are the best. These are literally the best episodes. That's what the title says, the best episodes. So you want to see the best episodes, literally right in the middle screen. The middle screen, the best episodes of Gravity Falls. The best.